Today, I'm going to recap a 2020 Australian science fiction film called 2067. Leave a like if you enjoy, and spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a CGI view of our planet. In the background, we hear horrible news reports from across the world. The lack of oxygen and extinction of plants have turned the Earth into a post-apocalyptic state. And the light comes down to one little place on the planet where two workers are working on a fix to bring back light to Australia. They stabilize the system and light returns to the city. Our workers get their pupils scanned by some device that compromises them to come to work. The old man can't come to his shift tomorrow. That's when our protagonist, Ethan White, takes the opportunity for some extra cash. The old man is sad about this. However, this is completely useless to the plot. Take a look at this world. Oxygen is the currency, and people suicide to protest. Nice. Ethan arrives at home where he can now take off his mask. I assume they have an oxygen conditioner. His girlfriend happily greets him. He tells her to close her eyes as he has a surprise for her. It's a new oxygen mask. Then, in some kind of futuristic kink, she gets intimate with the mask on. Suddenly, she bleeds from her face, a symptom caused by a disease nicknamed the sickness. There currently is no cure for it. The next day at work, he is detained by some security and is told that he has a meeting with the CTO of the company that produces artificial oxygen. The company is called Chronic Corp. They get on an elevator to go up and meet with the CTO. And her name is
Regina Jackson.
She gives him the typical inspirational speech, and out of nowhere she is like, "What if I told you you could save the whole world?" And Ethan is like, "Huh?" So they take him to a very scientific room with people in scientific clothing, and there is a scientific object in the middle. It turns out that Ethan's father invented a time machine. Virginia explains that they tested the machine by sending radio waves. They were shocked to see a return of the waves via an encoded message which read, "Send Ethan White." The message came from 400 years into the future. The sickness is extinguishing the population of the current time, and they believe that in the future they discover the cure. So Ethan will go into the portal, come back with a cure. Ethan goes to some oxygen pub with his friend Jude. Ethan has no care and is very doubtful about this idea of him saving the world. Jude brings up his father, which Ethan resents for leaving him a suicide note when he was just 8. Then he points at his collar on his wrist and asks Jude why would he follow his dad's footsteps chasing rainbows and abandon his wife dying of the sickness. Jude then activates inspirational speech mode and tells Ethan, "Want to prove you aren't like your dad? Save her." I mean, what an asshole, telling his friend he has to prove himself. We are shown a flashback of Ethan on his 8th birthday. His father hadn't been home all day. Once he arrives, he tells Ethan he would become someone important, then tells him this will hurt and he will one day understand. Ethan puts his hand inside of the machine and the collar is permanently attached to his wrist. His father, in a rush, heads for the exit. Although his wife tells him he should go, Ethan doesn't want to end up like his father. He also doesn't want to lose her. We cut to Ethan sitting on some rooftop where he tries to take off his wrist thingy. We head into another flashback where he is suffocating to death until younger Jude comes to his rescue. After a long night, he decides he will go save the world. He leaves his wife a metal flower, promising he will come back to her. In a very gullible way, he makes a deal with the CTO. Xanity, his wife, should receive the first dose if he were to find the cure. And the boss is all like, sure. He puts on a suit with his name on it. The scientist explains he will be launched a bit into the air, so one of these exosuits will protect him. The lady gets all inspirational once again, as well as his friend Jude, and then boom, he is launched into the future. After a rough impact from the sky, a fire he puts out, and the explosion of his suit, he has a peaceful moment admiring the vegetation, something he never saw in his lifetime. He attempts to communicate with people that he left 400 years ago and somehow it fails. But he does find Archie, some sort of a very advanced Siri. Archie leads him to a garage with a skeleton which had a bullet on its skull. Things get worse when the name on the collar reads Ethan White. He also finds a very old Archie. Moments later, he realizes the skeleton also wears the wrist thingy, but unlike his, it glows green. He tells the old Archie to play the last recording. We can hear two people talking. Suddenly, they begin to scuffle, and finally, we hear a gunshot. Then Archie decides to shut down. At nighttime, he finds a fruit. He scans it, but Archie can't identify it. Regardless of this, he eats it. A few minutes go by, and what do you know, he is dying of intoxication. A mysterious figure pulls up and stabs him in the back. Lucky Ethan was stabbed with an antitoxin by his friend Jude, who took the other suit and came to his rescue when his vitals were failing. Ethan brings Jude to his skeleton, but Jude is very confused, and after a little bit of talking, he's just like, you know, this bag of bones ain't you, bud. Archie then leads them to another structure, which is very similar, except this one scans Ethan's eye and opens. They go inside, and it's very dark. After a bit of walking, they find the computer. Press enter, his wrist turns green, some lights turn on, and the time travel machine reveals itself. Jude is like, nice, we can go back home, it works. Ethan is like, no, there's something going on. I'm taking every step dead me took. My thingy is green, and you saving me from the poison changed absolutely nothing. Jude is like, you gotta bring it down, brother. Come on, you're going cuckoo on me. Ethan tells the AI to replay the system logs in which his father appears speaking about the project. Jude pauses it and says this will hurt more than it helps, but Ethan ignores him. We then go into a flashback which shows the first time the machine worked and the coded message saying, send Ethan White. We are brought back to the present time with an emergency failure. The machine is out of power and in 4 hours it will cause a nuclear explosion. Ethan becomes doubtful of why they sent Jude. He tells him nobody else would jump in here to save him. Then he tells him they need to go fix the power. But Ethan is like, let me figure this out first. He comes up with a plan, go down the tunnels, fix the power supply, and then go find the person who lives here. But not before they head for the city. They walk by Xanity's class where she taught botanical history, and he stumbles upon the metal flower he gave her. We have another flashback of 8-year-old Ethan where his dad calls mom and tells him to go for a walk. In this walk, they get their oxygen mask robbed. The mom gets shot and killed, while Ethan is left to suffocate. We already know what happens after. We snap back to reality and Ethan begins to realize they might not be able to find the cure, and they just need to fix the power. That's when Jude is like, well, time to go. It's probably best this way. Nobody is suffering anymore. Ethan becomes paralyzed. Those were the same exact words he heard on the recording before being shot.
Archie, repeat last playback.
Who's that? Maybe it's better this way. No one's suffering anymore.
They listen to the entire recording. Nervously, Jude pulls out a gun and screams, why did you hide that from me? Ethan screams back, why do you have a gun? Then Jude tells him he is losing his mind, takes him hostage to fix the power supply, and tells Ethan he is saving him from himself. Attempting to fix the power, a door between them begins to close. Jude grabs the lever and uses it to stop it. Running out of time, Ethan removes the lever. Oxygen has now been sucked out of the room, and with his last bit of oxygen, he manages to pull the lever down, collapsing on the floor, but fixing the power. After he regains his consciousness, Jude wakes him up, then they head out for the tunnels, back to the machine. Jude is relieved to find out that the machine works, but Ethan is still worried. He goes to check out if the skeleton is still there, and it is. Ethan gives old Archie new batteries, then tells Jude that his skeleton is still there, meaning he will still die because they can't change anything. Jude keeps using the same reply of, you're going insane, bro, and Ethan is like, no, you are going to shoot me and I will rot in that hallway for 400 years. He tells Archie to play the last recording where they now visualize what happened. The situation escalates. Full of rage, Ethan shouts, how could he do that to me? But Jude keeps telling him that's not him. Ethan plays a log from his birthday where his dad speaks about a huge mistake he has made. Meanwhile, Jude interrupts the transmission, breaking cables. Ethan has had enough. He rushes to the room where Jude is in and locks him inside, then resumes the recording. His father opens his heart out to Ethan, telling him he loved him and he worked on this for him, to give him a life he never had, to save all of humankind and find the cure to this sickness. Then the CTO walks into the room. Dad realizes that this project isn't about the sickness anymore. The lady just wants to escape the ruined earth with a selected few and save themselves. The entire plan is revealed. All they need to be jumped forward in time is for someone to fix the power supply 400 years from now. The dad locked the system so that only Ethan's DNA can access it from the other end. This is to prevent the CTO from going on forward with her plan by herself. She doesn't like this, so she shoots the dad. Jude breaks out of the room and tries to pause the transmission. However, it goes on, and it is revealed to us that the CTO planned for Ethan's mom to die and told Jude to keep the child alive and protect him because he is the key to everything. Ethan is in disbelief. His lifetime friend was just meant to kill him. He starts breaking cables to break the time machine, but Jude stops him and admits he is meant to kill him here after he gets it working. Full of guilt, he doesn't carry on with his plan and instead puts a bullet in his own head. Ethan now has one mission: fulfill the dream his father died for. Revitalize the planet. Back in 2067, the CTO and the selected few are now anxiously waiting for the machine to work again. While staring at the computer, Ethan is able to go back on his memories with a different point of view, and as his dad told him he would years ago, he understands everything and no longer sees him as a coward, but instead a hero. The message, send Ethan White, was actually programmed by his father, which Ethan sends back to 2067. The machine is about to open a portal to a healed earth and a new life. Wrong. To their misfortune, Ethan sends them kind regards, including hundreds of extinct plants and a recording of when she murdered Dr. Richard White. He also broke the time machine to prevent them from traveling to the future. The news goes absolutely viral. The plan sent by Ethan would revitalize the earth, which in turn gets rid of the sickness because now people would breathe real oxygen. The CTO surprisingly also had new life. Life in jail, that is. Xanity receives the can that has her name on it. She opens it and a flower is revealed. This time, a real one, sent by Ethan. She really misses him, but understands that he can't come back due to the news she just saw. She begins to cry a river. Back to the future, we realize that Ethan buries Jude and forgives him for all that he's done, because in the end, he remained loyal to him. Ethan then goes back to the place where his skeleton was, and happily, he sees that it's no longer there. He rushes back to see a view of the city, where it's now changed. It is no longer a landscape of desert. Instead, an eco-friendly, utopian-like city. The future, he has changed.